There is no easy way to say this is the end of a very, very stimulating and important set of conversations over the last day and a half. But let me thank this particular panel and all of the panelists and workshop participants and speakers over the last day and a half. It's been more than we could have imagined. There were a group of us who began to sort of brainstorm about 2 years ago the different ways we could begin the process of education, knowing that the best way to educate is iterative. And so each time you add a little more and you expand it, you add a different question, a different perspective, and hopefully in the end it would all add up to something significant. There were a few of us who were sitting in a room in November imagining that we could actually pull off a conference in March. There were members of my staff who thought I was absolutely nuts. That's not the first time they suggested that when I said to them that we could actually make this work. And then I encouraged John and his staff, and Sarah was there too, thinking, we can do this when? But I always said, and I firmly believe, you set a timeline, you do it. If there's a topic that's important, people will participate, and others will come to join in a community of conversation. And so I applaud you as well, both for your willingness to take a day and a half out of your busy lives and schedules to come to Ann Arbor to sit in a series of rooms to engage in an important set of conversations. This is the beginning of something and not the end of it. Our challenge is before us as you listen to this panel and you think of the ways in which we engage the questions of mental health and well-being and not just mental illness, and how we deal with one piece of that, depression. You recognize that the challenges are considerable. We cross-cut these issues by culture, by race, by ethnicity, by socioeconomic status, by nationality, by birth order, by a range of other factors that we've discussed today. And you recognize, one, why there are more than one book on any given topic and more than one article on with any given perspective. But you also recognize that there's no one solution, that what we have to do is to continue to explore the best practices, and that's important. So what I will say to you, and I had a whole range of things here I was going to say, one is that we will do this again. It is important that we understand that indeed one time is not enough, that we will commit ourselves to several years, in which we have done in principle, to bring together those of you in the community who help us to understand and then to share it. And so we will continue to also produce documents, videos, educational tools, and others that will help us to share this not only in Ann Arbor and the greater Detroit and Michigan community, but across the nation. So we'll do that. We also will attempt to do something else. One of the challenges that I think we started with and something we recognize is one question to educate. There's another issue to make sure we have the resources in place to actually deal then with the consequences of that education. And what we heard here yesterday is that there are different ways of doing that. For those of you who are part of advocacy groups, it is important to continue to push the envelope, to make sure then that politicians and others pay attention to the desires of the citizenry of this state and of this nation, that we come together and speak as a collective voice, if not one voice. And for those of you looking for a strategy, some of you may have participated in the virtual march a couple of weeks ago, where over 1 million signatures were sent via the internet to protest the war in Iraq. There are different strategies to get the attention of politicians in Washington that go beyond telephone calling, that go beyond voting in the booth. There are ways in which, and we've talked to different people in congressional offices, that said they were overwhelmed with the outflow from across the nation in a 12-hour period. It got their attention. There are different ways of then strategizing and thinking about those innovative strategies that will allow us to improve the overall environment in this nation. It's also important, and I was talking earlier at lunch with Lynn Rivers, to understand that there are indeed, we're talking about corporate models, there are corporations that have actually modified their health plans to make sure that individuals with mental health conditions, including depression, are included. There are ways to share best practices there as well. And part of our challenge and part of our job is to bring all to the table who can share and show a possibility. And so in concluding, first, again, let me thank the panelists, the keynote speakers, and all for really coming together. And so thank you. And I'd like to offer a special word of thanks to the volunteers. There were individuals you didn't get to meet. You may have read their name tags who actually sat at tables and directed and helped facilitate sessions over the last day and a half. A lot of them came from their own offices to participate over the last day to assist and make this work. I'd like to thank those volunteers as well. And then finally, for those of you who come from other campuses, thank you for coming and taking part in this conversation from organizations across the United States. Thank you as well. And one theme, one possibility, someone asked me yesterday, what else can we do? Let me suggest something you can actually take back to your campuses. One of the things that we have tried to do over the last few years is to take a topic, wrap it around the curriculum, and create something called a theme semester, where you take an idea, it doesn't cost any more money, but you take the collection of courses that you already have, give it a focus, invite faculty to participate, and then highlight an issue of common concern to the broader community. That's one idea we haven't talked about, but one that actually can be extended, the high school level, the collegiate level, and across the nation. We can use the curriculum that we have, build on it, and educate. Our job is then to continue to educate. Thank you for helping to educate.